Trust God just a little while longer. Trust him a little while longer. Don't trust the other things. Trust God. Wait patiently for him just a little while longer. You see, those Jews in Jerusalem, they were frustrated. And they created some situations for themselves because they tried to make God's timing happen on their time. They tried to revolt. They tried to stir things up to try to get themselves out of that situation. They said, we should be in charge. This is our land. We should call the shots here. And it didn't turn out very well. But 30 years before Jesus was to be born in Bethlehem, so think about that. 30 years before, that means that Jesus' mother, Mary, probably wasn't even born yet. But 30 years before Jesus was going to be born in Bethlehem, a man by the name of Caesar Augustus came on the scene. And he ultimately brought about what we refer to now as the Pax Romana, the peace of Rome. See, there was so much squabbling, so much infighting. This territory was fighting against this territory. This political leader was fighting against this political leader. These two guys were deciding if they should ally together against this guy over here. This was not the proper environment. This was not the proper place or time for Jesus to be born. It was too chaotic. Things were too uncertain. Laws were enforced differently in this province than they were in this province. This guy was good with some things, and this guy was good with the exact opposite things. But here's what Paul tells us. Right on the heels of that passage in Romans chapter 5, when he says that going through these difficult times begin to develop in us character and patience and hope, then he says this, when we were unable to help ourselves, at the right time, Christ died for us. At the right time. When was that right time? Well, he gives us a little bit more insight in Galatians chapter 4, verse 4. He says, but when the set time, remember God had his timing set before time even began, when the set time had fully come, God sent his son, born of a woman, born under the law. When was that time? Quite simply, the historian Luke says it this way. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree. See, when Caesar Augustus came on the scene, there was peace. And that created the environment for Jesus to be able to move around throughout that nation of Israel undisturbed by the political forces, and began to train his disciples. And that began to open up the door so after Jesus ascended to heaven, that there was laws and there was proper enforcement and consistent enforcement of those laws, and there were roads, and there was a common language that would allow the followers of Jesus, who had been empowered by him and by the Holy Spirit, to now be able to take this gospel to all 4 points of the globe. If Jesus had been born any earlier, it wouldn't have been the right time. When we struggle sometimes with how long is this going to take place? How long do I have to wait for this to take place? Know that God is accomplishing something in his perfect timing.